Hey everyone, welcome to the first official episode of Straight Guy Queer Eye. I'm your host, Paul Yen, and I am very excited to be here and to have you here with me. I want to say that the outpouring of support that I've gotten for Straight Guy Queer Eye has been overwhelming. I've gotten an amazing group of friends and family and chosen family, and they're as excited about this show as I am. So I wanted to take this moment to say thank you to all of them and to all of you who I don't know yet. I had listeners from Asia, from Europe, from Australia, from all over the U.S., and it was kind of heartwarming. I wasn't expecting that, and I did get a lot of feedback, great feedback, and I will take them all into consideration and try to implement what I can and what makes sense for the show. So please be patient. Please remember that I'm new to podcasting, and there will be a lot of technical difficulties, sound issues, and things like that, and we'll work through them. So to put things into context, RuPaul's Drag Race, which is a show that we will be using to hopefully inspire some topics for the podcast, it officially released on February 2nd, 2009. At the time, Barack Obama was the president of the United States, the first African-American president. TikTok didn't exist, Instagram didn't exist, and the number one U.S. song at the moment, the time, was My Life Would Suck Without You by Kelly Clarkson. I don't even know what song that is, and I should have listened to it before the show, but I'll do that later. Anyways, a correction from last week. I want to take responsibility for screwing up. I forgot the name of Willem and Alaska's podcast. It's called Race Chaser. It's a really good show. I can't recommend it enough. They give you behind-the-scenes info, and they go into all the nitty-gritty details of what it's like to be on the show because they were contestants. Alaska was on Season 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race and All-Stars Season 2, and Willem was in Season 4 of RuPaul's Drag Race and Drag U. They're funny, they're hilarious, they don't take themselves too seriously, and I really enjoy the show. So please give them a listen. They're both very talented. Willem is an actress. She also happens to be one of my wife Maggie's favorite queens. And so shout out to them, shout out to Race Chaser, give them a listen, and yeah. In episode 0, I called this a disclaimer. It's more of an ethics statement. I mentioned last week that, and I will continue to mention it, that I am not an expert in the queer community or queer culture. Never have been, never will be. I'm here to listen, so I don't claim to understand, to know any of the trauma or the drama that the queer community goes through. I just want to be here to listen and to try to understand and try to hopefully bridge the gap for people who maybe don't know how or where to start. And there are obviously many ways to go. Simply getting to know someone in the queer community is the best way to do it. Get to know them, who they are as human beings. And I think that would be a beautiful start. But if for whatever reason you don't want to do that, I think shows like RuPaul's Drag Race or We're Here or Queer Eye are really important pop culture shows because it lets people into a community that maybe they're afraid of or whatever for whatever reason. And that's why we're using RuPaul's Drag Race to start off with, to find these moments where we can humanize a group of humans who just want to live their lives and to do what they love to do. And in doing so, I think that if you immerse yourself into the world of drag or the queer community, you can see how lovely or how not lovely, how talented, how not talented, how perfect or imperfect these queens can be. In other words, you can see their humanity and you just see that they are human beings who have goals, dreams, and desires and passions and everything else, just like the rest of us. And with those goals in mind, one of the notes that I got, or the feedback that I got, was, who am I? As in, I should let the audience know who I am. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't want to say too much because I was worried that, I don't know, one, I didn't want to make this about myself because it's not. And two, my producer hat, as a first-time podcast producer, I was thinking that I could save it for later and, make it more interesting later. But screw all of that. Who's to say I'm going to have more episodes anyway? So I want to take my ego out of the equation. I want to take my worries out of the equation and just tell you a little bit about who I am. My name is Paul Yen, if you didn't catch that at the beginning. I'm Asian American, Vietnamese American to be more specific. I'm an actor. I've been acting professionally for the last 14 years. I'm from Southern California, My parents are Vietnamese refugees, and yeah, that question's always weird, right? I don't really know what else to say because it's here. I'll tell you how I got into RuPaul's Drag Race. I was never a fan of reality shows, The Bachelor or anything like that. And I remember my sister and my brother-in-law telling me, "Oh, you should watch this show called Queer Eye. You'd like it." And I immediately disregarded it because it was a reality show or whatever. But they convinced me to watch an episode, and I ended up really falling in love with it and falling in love with that crew because they're just so nice. And I already knew this, but I thought what a great way to introduce the queer community to people who maybe don't really know much about the queer community. So that already kind of set the tone for me to be more open to watch something like RuPaul's Drag Race. But I was still kind of against it. So when my wife asked me a year or so before the pandemic if I wanted to watch it, I just said no, but she'd have it on in the background, and I'd catch glimpses of it here and there, and then I started to find myself asking, "Oh, well, who's that? And did they make that? Or who won and who lost? And what song is that they're lip syncing to?" And next thing you know, I sat down and we watched episode 1, season 1 together, and that was about 5 years ago. And yeah, I'm just here, and I want to introduce the queer community to everybody else who maybe isn't as open to it as I am. And if there's anything else you want to know, we'll figure that out as the show goes on. But that's pretty much the gist of who I am. Don't really know what else to say. So all of you who gave me feedback to tell you about me, I hope you're happy. Okay, as I said in episode 0, this isn't a RuPaul's Drag Race channel because there are already so many out there, really good ones at that. I mentioned Race Chaser earlier. There's also the official RuPaul's Drag Race podcast produced by World of Wonder, the actual producers of RuPaul's Drag Race, and is hosted by John Pauly, who's a longtime producer of RuPaul's Drag Race. And then outside of that, you've got All Right Mary, you've got RuPaul's Drag Race Recap, and so many other shows that you can listen to if you're listening for a recap or a review of the show. We're more trying to find little gems and topics within the show that we can dissect or go over and look into, and hopefully to understand the community better and to understand for ourselves better and hopefully become better human beings along the way. Like I said, what I want to do here is to recap the episodes and discover and rediscover, just little things that I maybe have missed at the beginning and get a perspective and become an even bigger fan than I already am. And when I say big fan, I don't want people to go, well, what queen was on this season and how many, I don't know all that. I just know that I enjoy the show and it puts a smile on my face when my queens that I pick win, or puts a tear on my eye when they get kicked off the show. So go easy on me. I will say that rewatching episode 1 from season 1 is really, really something else, because comparing it to now, the growth has been really insane, like exponentially insane, because the first season is so basic. Their budget was probably so small. And then once people realized that they had something really special there, they poured a lot more money into it in the following seasons. So stick with the show. It gets a lot better. The queens get a lot better. The talent gets even better than before, because now they have a basis to work off of. For those of you who've been longtime fans of RuPaul's Drag Race, you can go ahead and skip ahead. I'll be sure to add a time marker so you can skip this area. I'm just about to go over some little details that maybe people who are new to the show don't know. So go ahead and skip there now. For those who are new, your basic episode outline usually looks a little something like this. In the first episode, the queens walk in to the workroom. They do their intros. And this is very funny because the first queen to walk in is Chanel, and there is no precedent, right? So she walks in and she's just checking out the space. And nowadays, queens know that this is their first impression to the world because now they have a huge following. So they'll come in with a quip or a one-line saying, or they really, really think through their outfit. And they know that this is maybe, if they get kicked off on the first episode. This might be their only chance to make an impression on the world. Whereas in Chanel comes in, and the impression she makes is that her ass is just hanging out and she doesn't give a shit. And I find that very, what would the word be? I find that refreshing because she has no idea what to expect, but she thought, you know what, I'm going to come in and I'm going to show my assets. See what I did there? Okay. Anyways, so once the queens all come in, they all meet. In later seasons, they read each other, meaning I take it as them judging one another. And so, but right here, everybody, it's their first time, so they're very cordial to each other. And then usually RuPaul will appear on a screen. At this point in time, they called that section of the show She-Male. Of course, She-Male is controversial because later on it comes off very transphobic, so they changed that, and they changed the title of that. But at the moment, they call it She-Male. RuPaul comes out, and she gives a very cryptic kind of message that nobody usually really understands. It'll cut off, and then RuPaul will appear on the work floor out of drag as himself. And he comes in and he'll tell the contestants, what the challenges to come are. And the first thing is the mini challenge, right? The mini challenges are random challenges. Like in the first episode, it's a photo shoot, but in later episodes, it could be something like they give you 15 minutes and you have a theme and you have to put on makeup and get dressed. And then it's usually very funny. It'll be very jokey, or there will be some sort of a obstacle that they have to overcome. It could be anything, really. And the winner of that often gets to have some sort of an advantage. In this case, the winner of the mini challenge, it counts towards your overall scoring in the maxi challenge, which is the next challenge and the main challenge of the episode. And in today's episode, the maxi challenge is drag on a dime, which we'll go into a little more detail later. Then after the challenge, there's usually a themed runway or category, which is drag on a dime today. And then the critiques come from the judges. And then Ru will choose the tops and bottoms of the episode. The two bottoms will have a lip sync battle, and then whoever loses will go home. That's the basic gist of an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. And now we'll dive into the actual episode. The show opens with these pictures of RuPaul when he's a kid, and he is damn adorable. And might I say, he hasn't changed a bit to me. He's just gotten taller and slightly older. And yeah, but he is damn cute. And that's later on in the series, they start to show pictures of a lot of the contestants when they're younger. And those are some of my personal favorite moments because you get to see them not only out of drag, but when they were super innocent and young and maybe were still insecure and weren't sure what they wanted to do with their lives. And some of them were picked on, some of them were supported as they were children. And to see them become who they are on RuPaul's Drag Race is very inspiring for me as an actor, because if they can go through all the shit that people put them through, then I can certainly push through, whatever challenges I face as an actor. So after RuPaul's pictures are shown, you see the intro for the show for the first time. It's really neat to see that the show has kept the same intro and they haven't changed a single thing. And to describe it, it's pink, it's very flamboyant. You see RuPaul in sort of like a skin-tight pink outfit, blonde hair, and the theme song comes on. You see these checkered flags, and just a point, maybe, I don't know if nobody's ever noticed, but drag racing or drag race is seen as a predominantly male, masculine motorsport. And I love the fact that RuPaul takes this and subverts it and makes it into a thing about drag queens and not drag racing, right? Actual drag racing. And so I think that's very smart. And you can kind of hear it in the line, too, because the lines in that opening sequence, RuPaul says, "Gentlemen, start your engines. May the best woman win." She's flipping it there. At least that's how I see it. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but I tend to do that sometimes. And if that was done on purpose, then that's the whole point, right? Is that they're putting something out there for themselves, but then they're also introducing something to to an outside community that hopefully will understand the community better, the drag community better. That was a jumble of words. So once this iconic intro comes in, you're introduced to the first 9 queens of the entire series. Chanel, like I said, is the first one to ever come in. Her ass is hanging out. She's super confident. She's checking out the workspace. Nina Flowers comes in, and she just looks like a badass with her faux hawk and her half-shaved head, and she just looks really, really fierce. And right off the top, I can tell, at least for myself, that she's one of my favorites. And I honestly don't even remember who won the entire show. And I don't remember each episode who loses, even though I've seen this before. It's been 5 years, folks. Then after Nina Flowers is Rebecca Glasscock. She's super casual. She comes in this just a yellow kind of torn up shirt and some jeans. Angina walks in. She's this tiny little Filipina. She's cute. Victor Porkchop Parker comes in. She's poised and experienced. Then this tall black woman comes in, Akasha, and she's wearing sort of a tight green bodysuit and makes me think of Chanel. And then you've got Tammy Brown, this quirky queen, super weird, which I really like. And then Jade comes in, and she's casual, and it looks like she's barely even wearing any makeup. And then you've got Bibi Zahara, who walks in, and she's super elegant. She's from Cameroon, currently living in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So you've got a wide variety of different queens from all across the country, and then an international one. And that's the beginning of the show. These are the first 9 queens of RuPaul's Drag Race history. And once the queens all meet each other, Ru appears out of drag, and you can see that they're all smitten because RuPaul is a superstar. She's an icon, and she's an influencer before there ever even was such a thing as an influencer. And she tells us all what the prizes are. There's a feature photo in Paper Magazine, which was RuPaul's first national cover, and oddly enough, they just recently announced a round of layoffs for their entire editorial staff, which kind of sucks, but it shows you how much the times have changed. The winner also gets a portrait taken by Greg Gorman, who's a celebrity photographer, to be used in the LA Iworks ad campaign. LA Iworks is still around to this day. They get to headline Absolute Vodka Pride Tour across the U.S., and they get a cash prize of $20,000 to be provided by Absolute Vodka and MAC Cosmetics. It's funny to see because in the current show, the amount of money you win is a lot more. And then comes the first mini challenge. The first mini challenge, you can see how low the budget is because they're just in the parking lot, and they've got this really nice classic orange Mustang out there, and they each come up individually, and there's 2 hot dudes who are sitting there with really short orange shorts. They each have a water hose, and each queen is expected to come in and to take over, to pose, and to get to have a photo shoot shot of them. And my top 5 are Nina Flowers, Chanel at number 2, Jade at number 3, Akasha at number 4. She gets on all fours on the hood, and she looks very, very feline, just kick ass. And then you've got Bibi Zahara. She's funny. And then as a bonus, the 6th one for me is Angina. She comes in and she just grabs this nasty sponge that's been sitting out all day, and she squeezes the water on herself. It's disgusting, but it looks kind of cool, waterfall-like. And I can't remember if that's the photo they use of her, but I just thought, to me, the lesson learned there is just to come in and take up room, take up space. And that's why those were my top 5. And then after the mini challenge, a big iconic thing for me is when the queens see each other out of drag for the first time, meaning they take off all their makeup and their wigs and their outfits. And I think Rebecca Glasscock kind of sums it up the best. She says, you never really meet someone until you meet them out of drag for the first time, and you really meet the person that's behind the mask. So we, as the audience, meet the drag queens out of drag as men for the first time. And unless the queens already know each other from doing tours or shows, it is also their first time meeting each other out of drag. And it's super fun to see because you see who crushes on who thinks who's hot, who thinks who's weird or whatever it may be. And it's also the time they kind of reveal who they are. So, for example, Nina Flowers, she already said it earlier, but you see that she's more androgynous, right? She's tatted up. She looks like She looks like she comes straight out of the movie Mad Max or some post-apocalyptic fashion show. And for Porkchop, she's able to do things as Porkchop that she says that she wouldn't be able to do as her male counterpart. Or Jade says that her drag persona has more balls than she does out of drag. So each queen has their reasoning to do what they do, as we all do in our life, right? And then comes the main challenge, which is drag on a dime. You have to create an outfit that embodies your drag using hand-me-downs from the costume department and crap from the dollar store for accessories, and take an outfit from garbage to couture. And once Ru releases them, it's a free-for-all. You grab whatever the hell you can. I think I saw a for sale sign in there. I saw a tiki torch. I saw some loofahs. And you've got to create an outfit out of this. So whatever you create on Drag on a Dime, it's combined with your photo shoot in the mini challenge. And whoever scores the most points wins the first episode. And whoever is deemed the lowest gets booted off the first episode. And note, this is the first time that RuPaul introduces the idea of charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. That's what it takes to win it all. Once the queens grab all their stuff, this is the time when queens are working on their outfits. Ru will usually walk through to get an idea of what each person is working on, and she'll give some advice on what they can maybe improve or change. And these challenges are my personal favorite because it takes a lot of damn talent and creativity to make an outfit from nothing. I mean, I can barely put on an outfit or put together an outfit, and I don't have to sew or glue together anything. So if you ever doubt that these people are talented, they are talented. But another reason why these work sessions are my favorites is because the queens, you learn about who they are because they're talking, they're chatting, and this is the moment where we learn that Porkchop has been doing drag for 21 years, she says, since January 16th of 1987. So at that point, she had been doing it for 21 years. If she's still doing it now, that means she's been doing it for almost 35 years? What are some things that you work on or that you love or have a passion for and have been doing for 35 years? And I love how she casually just drops in that she's been shot at and has had shit thrown at her for doing drag. Really take a minute to think about that. What is it that you really enjoy doing in your life? Whether it's playing the violin, ballet, if you're an actor, or if you like playing board games, something you do in your life that doesn't threaten anybody else. And imagine you doing that, and then somebody hates it so much that they shoot at you. Would you still do it? I love acting, but if I'm getting shot at for doing it, my heart tells me that I would still do it. My brain is telling me, no, hell no, dude, you wouldn't be doing it. So for someone like Porkchop to continue to pursue her passion and continue to pursue drag, despite being hated on by a group of people who are homophobic or whatever their issue with the drag queen community is, takes a lot of courage. And then if you think about it, that's in drag. She has to deal with that in drag. And then when she takes it off, she also has to deal with being a gay man and being picked on for being a gay man. From my perspective, I think people like Porkchop and people in the queer community who continue to deal with that kind of shit on a daily basis, they're on a whole nother level they have a whole nother level of respect from me, because it's not easy, I would imagine, being picked on and being told that you're less than. And nowadays, you're being told that you can't read to kids and that you can't perform at live performances in Tennessee and in Florida that's coming up, in Montana. I mean, for the party that's always talking about freedom of speech, they sure aren't respecting this group's freedom of speech. Anyway, it's food for thought. So then Elimination Day comes, right? It's the runway. This is when the outfits are done and they're gonna present it. Of course, RuPaul comes out and walks the stage for the first time, and she looks stunning. I don't always love her outfits, but she wears them with such confidence that you can't help but root for her. And I can't wait for you all to see once they get the lighting down. Which reminds me, the stage, the lighting, the workroom, this is sort of a perfect build it and they will come learning moment for me. is that they didn't have it perfectly down. Their budget was probably really low. So everything looks fine, but compared to what they're doing now, RuPaul built this. It became a worldwide sensation, and they put more money into it, and now it looks stunning. So if you have never watched RuPaul's Drag Race before, please stick with it because they steadily improve the show, and it just gets better and better and better. Once RuPaul makes her grand entrance, the judges are introduced. I forget that Merle Ginsburg, who's a fashion journalist and editor, and Santino Rice, who's a fashion designer and judge on Project Runway, they were the main judges for I don't remember how long. And then they bring on guest judges like Mike Ruiz, who was the photographer from the mini challenge. And then they have a man named Bob Mackie, who's an American fashion designer who's designed for people like Lucille Ball, Cher, Diana Ross, Barbara Streisand, Elton John, and of course for RuPaul. And I know that Alaska and Willem are completely smitten when they run into him. So that's how much of an icon this guy is if those celebrity names didn't ring a bell to you. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to give you my top 5. My number 1 was Nina Flowers. She just had these capri pants and this punk rock look, but it was so well put together. She was hands down my favorite. My second favorite was Angina. I put down Loofah Queen because she made a skirt or dress out of loofahs. And then also she kind of gets credit for being the first to not just do a runway walk on the runway, but she drops and she does the catwalk. And she gets a laugh from that for the judges. My third favorite was Bibi Zahara. She comes out and she's super elegant. Her outfit looks like it just came straight off of a rack from a fancy store in Beverly Hills or something. It might not have been that impressive, but it looked really, really well put together. And my fourth favorite was Jade. She had this indigenous vibe about her. She used that tiki torch that I saw, and she used it as a staff. And she got the pun of the week from RuPaul. She walked out, and RuPaul said, "Lion Queen." I love that kind of corny stuff. I love that RuPaul doesn't take things too seriously. They're able to laugh at themselves, even though this is a very serious business. This is a very serious community, especially because of the way they get treated. So they're able to laugh at themselves and able to just have these dad joke moments. And I'm a sucker for dad jokes. So I think maybe that's why I just really enjoy the show, because they don't take themselves seriously. I don't take myself seriously. Yeah. And then my fifth favorite queen for the first episode on the runway was Tammy Brown. She's got this 20s, 30s flapper look. She's really quirky, and I have a really soft spot for quirky queens. And she is credited for having the first reveal on RuPaul's runway. She's wearing this, I want to say like a baby blue flowery vest belt thing, and she takes it off and she reveals her outfit underneath, even though you could already see it. But hey, give credit where credit is due. She's the first to do a reveal. And if you continue to watch the show, you will see some really amazing reveals, some really, really clever outfits, really elegant outfits that are Met Gala worthy, I'd say. A notable mention for me is Chanel. Her outfit wasn't my favorite, but man, she had legs and booty for days. And she doesn't lack any sort of confidence at all. And I wish I had half the amount of confidence that her and Nina had. And my bottoms of the week were Akasha and Porkchop. I know it's not easy to put an outfit together, so I'm definitely not judging them on that. I couldn't put together an outfit like they did, so no diss on them. But they were just my least favorite outfits. For Akasha, her skirt, the judges say it, but it was a little too short, and it just didn't really stand out. And then for Porkchop, it was green, and to me, it looked like there were pizzas running down the front of her chest and the middle of her back. And yeah, those were my two worst outfits. And this is the spoiler section of the show. So if you haven't finished the episode, or if you haven't watched it yet and you don't want to know who wins, who loses, go ahead and stop right here and go watch the show. The queens who are safe are Jade, Chanel, Bibi, and Tammy Brown. Angina, Rebecca Glasscock, Victoria Porkchop, Akasha, and Nina Flowers are the worst and best of the week. Later on, they end up changing it to tops and bottoms for the pun, and I love that. And I'll just say it. Angina and Glasscock are safe. Angina's outfit was really nice. The main critique for her was that she still looks like a little boy and they want to see a woman. And then for Rebecca Glasscock, they said that her photo shoot in the mini challenge, she looked like a woman, but on the runway, she looked like a boy dressed as a girl. But they were safe. And the winner of the week, drum roll please, was Nina Flowers. All the judges loved her. They said that she had a fierce punk rock kind of road warrior look, which I definitely agree with. Their only concern with Nina Flowers is that they were worried that she might not be able to do the soft and sweet, which I love that Bob Mackie said that he wants to see her try. And because she's the winner of this week, she gets immunity from being kicked off next week. And then in her photo shoot, I just got to say she was hot as hell, man. She looked like a super sexy Bond villain or something. Which means that the bottom two were Porkchop and Akasha. For Porkchop, like I said, she said she'd never designed before, but they just weren't impressed with her outfit. And then on top of that, in her photo shoot, she wasn't even looking at the camera. It looked like she was kind of looking at nothing up in the sky. And for Akasha, whose photo screamed, "Come get me," I think Santino summed up her outfit by saying that it looked like something that a hooker would wear. Ouch. So then, of course, the two bottoms, Porkchop and Akasha, have to lip sync. So they're asked to prepare this beforehand, which take another moment to think about this, right? So during the week, not only are they preparing their outfits for Drag on a Dime, they've also got to memorize these songs, and because they don't know if they're going to be on the bottom or not, so they have to have this song ready to lip sync on top of having to make their own costumes or having to get ready for the competition. And in this moment, it's funny to see RuPaul explain the rules. It spells it out for them where she says that if I say Shantae, you stay, that means you stay, and if I say sashay away, that means you've been eliminated. And during the lip sync contest or lip sync battle, Akasha just looks like she wants to stay. She's giving it her all, and then Porkchop kind of just stopped in the middle of lip syncing, and then she almost tripped over herself a few times, it looked like. And then so Shantae Akasha stays, and Porkchop was asked to sashay away. So sadly, Porkchop was the first queen to be eliminated on the first episode of RuPaul's Drag Race ever. But on her way out, Porkchop leaves this message to the plus-size community to live your dreams and not let your size or anyone stop you. And I think that's such a powerful message, and I think this is yet another reason why I like RuPaul's Drag Race so much, because they are body positive. You see tall girls, short girls, big girls, skinny girls. You see Asian girls, black girls, white girls, Latina girls. You see people from all walks of life. And if you really think about that, this is in 2009, so they were way ahead of their time, because we're barely starting to see diversity now in Hollywood. And so they had foresight to do that. And as an actor of color, I really appreciate that they were open to most anybody at the time. There's some controversy that comes up later, or I don't even know if it was ever controversy, but there are things that come up later that we will discuss when it comes up. And that wraps it up for the first official episode of Straight Guy Queer Eye. Thank you so much if you sat with me and listened through the entire episode. I know that there are still some technical difficulties. I know I'm still kind of maneuvering my way through a podcast. It's all very new to me. But if you did, thank you so much. Thank you for spending your week with me. It still blows my mind that we had people from all over the world listen. And if you really enjoyed this, please subscribe, follow, download the episode, and share it with anybody you think would be interested or can benefit from listening to the show. And you can, I know I said we didn't have social media, but one of the tips or the suggestions I got was to get on social media. So follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SGQE Podcast. And you can email me with comments, suggestions, feedback. You can email that to sgqepodcast@gmail.com. That's sgqepodcast@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll see you next week. And remember, be human, be kind.